Hi, it's Amal here and welcome to my channel. First of all, I used toilet paper for 2 whole years and it was disgusting. White people are simply the worst. Today's topic is a rather controversial one. Now, I really hope I don't get cancelled because of this. Should trans women be allowed to compete in women's sports? Well, my answer is no, they should not be. Now, before you get triggered, watch this whole video. If I succeed in convincing at least one person, then that is my success. According to the current criteria, if a man has transitioned into a woman, then he or she can compete in the women's category, provided that they meet certain requirements. According to the IOC guidelines, a trans woman needs to undergo hormonal therapy to suppress her testosterone level to 10 nanomoles per liter for a year. Now, testosterone, being the male hormone, is one of the primary reasons why, when it comes to aspects of physicality, men have the upper hand over women. And so someone who is born a man transitioning into a woman will have a higher testosterone level, which seems to be unfair. So it does make sense to reduce a trans woman's testosterone levels before she can compete in the women's category. Seems fair, right? Except that it isn't. Because the factor that isn't considered is the effect of male puberty. The thing to understand is that prior to hitting puberty, the physical aspects of a boy and girl is not so different. But when male puberty happens, things change a whole lot more. Boys after hitting puberty grow significantly taller, develop higher muscle mass, and develop higher bone density when compared to their female counterparts. All of which gives them a significant advantage when it comes to things like sports. And so, theoretically speaking, if a boy transitions into girl before he or she hits puberty, then technically speaking, things would be fair. That is not what is happening here, and that is the most important thing to understand. This is Laurel Hubbard, a New Zealand weightlifter and the first openly transgender woman to compete in the Olympics. She transitioned into a woman when she was 35 years old in 2012. Her first international competition was in 2017 in the women's category when she was almost 40 years old and she won a gold medal. Now, after her transition, she has undergone hormonal therapy as stipulated. But the question is that enough? She transitioned at the age of 35. Now, assuming that she hit puberty at 15 years of age, that still leaves 20 years worth of higher muscle mass and bone development at her disposal. Now, that is more than enough to gain an unfair advantage over her rivals. And many of her fellow athletes have complained about this, only to be labelled as a transphobe. Most athletes hit their primes anywhere between the age of 18 and 30, but Laurel Hubbard won her first international medal at the age of 40. Now, I don't care what anyone says, but that was possible only because of the advantages that her biological body gave her. Trans activists like Veronica Ivy, who is a world champion cyclist herself, insist that there is virtually no difference between a person's chosen gender and the gender that he or she was born as. Which is an absurd claim because there are two categories in sports, men and women, for a reason. Sports is an activity that is heavily based upon a person's physical aspects. And on average have a bigger heart, higher red blood cell count, higher muscle mass, higher bone density, and more fast-twitch fibers. All of which puts them a step above women when it comes to sports. Serena Williams is the #1 ranked tennis player in the women's category. So the question arises, how would she fare when competing against men? The answer is that she would be easily beaten by any of the top 200 players in the men's category in tennis. Now, does that mean she's bad? Definitely not. She is one of the best athletes to have ever lived. But comparing her against men is unfair. Now, to a more personal experience. While I was in school, I was something of a sprinter myself. Now, I'm not going to be modest, I was pretty good, while also looking like a stick figure from Hangman for some reason. Now, the current national record for 100-meter sprint in the women's category is 11.17 seconds by Diti Chand. I have broken that record when I was 15 years old. Now, there is multiple research which suggests that the muscular advantage enjoyed by transgender women is only minimally reduced when testosterone is suppressed artificially. If anyone wants to take a closer look at the studies, I've linked them in the description down below. And so predicating this whole issue solely based on the testosterone level is illogical. Now, I just want to make one thing clear. I'm not saying any of this to disenfranchise transgenders. The struggle they go through is real. Now, they have every right to live the way they want, and we should all be respectful of their choices. Trans persons reject the gender they were born into in favor of how they feel inside. And that is perfectly fine. They should be afforded every right to choose their identity without discrimination. But then you can't use the perks you were assigned at birth to gain an advantage over your chosen gender. That is not only unfair, it is unethical. So that's all folks. Like and share this video if you enjoy the content, and see you next time.